Well, good morning, my friend, and welcome to the Pastor's Podcast. Good to have you with me on this Thursday morning, and I hope that you had a good midweek service wherever you are. And we have continued our series on communicating. Last night I talked about communicating the faith. How do I get the faith from me to someone else? We dealt with that last night, and I believe it was a help to those who listen. And it's good to have you along with me today on another day to serve the Lord. And today, of course, we've got soul winning here this morning. And then I get into staff meetings and different things this afternoon, and looking forward to another great day of serving the Lord. And I'm looking forward to this weekend as well, as we get in just a couple weeks away from our vacation Bible schools. And I know those things start up all over the place. And I'm glad. I want our children to be able to get grounded in the truth. And we talk about communicating the faith. Well, let's get it to the children. Let's communicate it to the children. And that's an important thing. Well, talking about children, let's talk about child discipline. I know this is one of the hot topics, one of the topics that some people just want to avoid. But let's look what the scripture has to say about this. The Bible says in Proverbs 13:24, he that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes. Now, discipline is critical to a child's life. And if it is not instilled, a child will live a life that brings hurt to themselves. Discipline is not a mean thing to do. So we often hear the word discipline and we think negative, but it's not a negative thing. Coaches discipline their players if they break the rules. Corporations discipline their employees when they do something that's against the company rules. Society disciplines a citizen who breaks the law. Discipline is a necessary part of life so that we don't infringe on another's freedoms and so that we don't hurt our own life. Now, the scriptures teach the importance of a parent disciplining their child when they do wrong, especially when they do wrong. So I'm amazed. Now, get this. Now, I'm amazed at how the children who come to our church reveal which of their parents practice discipline. The out of control child is the one whose parents think that discipline is cruel, but the decent and respectful child is the one whose parents practice discipline. Now, I want to give you a few principles about the importance of parents disciplining their child. First, discipline is a scriptural thing to do. You don't need permission from the state to discipline your child. In fact, the state needs to keep its fingers out of our homes. God gives the right to discipline a child from his word, which means I don't have to have another's permission to discipline my own child, because that right comes from God. Understanding a child belongs to God. They're the heritage of the Lord. So I'm only caring for God's child, not the state's child, not the government's child, not the Department of Child whatever welfare. They belong to God, and God gives that right to discipline to the parents. So it's scriptural to discipline a child, and it's just as right to discipline as a person as it is for a person to be saved, and by putting their faith and trust in Jesus Christ to save them. So you're obeying God by disciplining your child when they do wrong. Second, discipline teaches your child respect. A child must learn that the world does not revolve around them. And the only way they're going to learn this is by a parent disciplining their child when they do wrong. A child who is not disciplined often has no respect for authority. Others, and even they have no respect for authority, no respect for others, and honestly, they have no respect for themselves. Just look at how they live. Proper discipline is a way to teach a child to respect everybody, respect authority, others around them, and themselves. Third, discipline always includes chastening. So understand this. I am not for beating a child at all. I think that is wrong. When you're beating a child black and blue, that's not right. And breaking bones, that's not discipline. That is abuse. But spanking a child is not going to hurt them if it is done properly. And it teaches them that their disobedience to the rules will be punished. I believe the best way to spank a child, this is me now, is for the parent to have the child sit and to think about what they have done for a few minutes while the parent cools down. I'm not for an immediate spanking. I think that when a child does wrong, I think mom and dad or whoever's done the wrong needs to send the child and make them sit down for a little bit. Now, one, it makes that child to understand this is not this ordeal of discipline is going to take some time, and it's not going to be pleasant. They need to sit and dwell on what they did wrong, but the parent needs that time to cool down. Once they've cooled down, now get this now, I have found that a few swats by a parent who has themselves under control would do the job needed. The purpose of discipline is not, get this now, is not to hurt the child, but it's to let them know that there is some pain when you do wrong. Now, and I say pain. A swat in the backside is not going to hurt. You're going to feel the sting. It's going to hurt a little bit. But now listen to me. And I'm not talking about leaving bruises. I'm talking about that a spanking lets that child know that breaking the rules will hurt worse when they become an adult, because breaking the rules as an adult often leads to fines from police or sometimes prison. So a little discipline as a child is saving them from the prison cell. It's teaching them that there are consequences to breaking rules. And despite society who says that, well, it doesn't really matter, it does matter, my friend. And they need to be disciplined. Fourth, discipline must be done quickly. God used the word "be times" when he talks about disciplining a child. God is teaching that the discipline must happen immediately. That's what that word "be times" means. Immediately. Immediate discipline teaches the child much better than waiting until later in their life to start disciplining. Well, they're just not old enough. Oh, they're old enough. And you're going to find that if you start discipline early in a child's life, you likely won't have to discipline them much through life, because they learn to respect at an early age. Fifth, discipline shows your love for the child. Not to discipline leads to a life of hurt, whereas discipline leads to a life of respect and enjoyment. The parent who follows God's command to discipline their child is the parent who loves their child the most. Now, understand, discipline, I want you to listen to the statement. Discipline leads to a disciplined life. A child who learns that if I do wrong, I will be disciplined, then they start disciplining their own life, setting up principles on their own guards of life so they don't have to go through this again. They learn quickly. Now, I've watched parents, oh, my friend, some of you moms and dads, listen to me. Get over your child always being right, and it's everybody else's fault. Somewhere, mom and dad, you're ruining your children. You're raising a brat. If you're always against the authority that says, hey, your child's not doing right. Well, it's everybody else's child. No, it's not. It is not. It is your child. And you've got to discipline your child and let them know this won't stand. You respect authority. Even if, okay, let's just put it this way. Let's say the authority was wrong in saying that your child was wrong, but the child acted out because the authority said it. The child was wrong in how they responded to the authority saying that. You always have to understand, authority is there for a reason. And yes, we are to defend authority, and we ought to make sure, and no, authority is not always right, but your child has to think that, man, authority is always right. Because if they don't, they're going to go up questioning authority. And look at the chaos it's produced in our society. A bunch of kids who always go out and they riot when they don't get their way, and they become thieves and robbers when they don't get their way, because, well, I don't agree with authority, so I'm just going to go riot and just tear up society. That's because mom and dad didn't discipline them. When I was a boy, I was too afraid. I was too afraid to do something like that because I was afraid mom and dad might kill me. Now I'm using that in a loose tongue way, but understand, I knew this. I knew mom and dad I knew they would discipline me if I did something like that. And somewhere we've got to get back to the day that we understand discipline is real and it needs to be done. We've let far too many people decide what we need to do with our child. And you look at their children, and their children are all over the place. Why do we let people whose children are out of chaos, just literally out of control? lead our children or tell us what to do with our children. I think I want to listen to the one whose child is doing right, the child who's a respectable citizen in society. Listen to me. There's nothing wrong with discipline. A sharp no. Hey, we don't do that. And if they don't listen, they get a swat. They need to know that. Mom and dad, stop letting your child have a little temper tantrum. They've got to learn. They don't get if they have a temper tantrum now when they're young and they're small. That temper tantrum will turn to violence later on. So you better learn to discipline. Stop, stop. So well, my child didn't do that. Get over it. It's not a knock against you, mom and dad. It is the fact that your child, this is your job. You got to train them right, and they've got to know I need to do what is right. If you do that, my friend, then you can certainly raise some children that are respectable in society, who respect authority, respect others, and respect themselves. And when we get to that point in our lives, we'll have some good children for the future generations. People that respect their country, respect the authority, respect God, respect themselves, respect others, everybody. That's what we need. But it all starts with discipline. Let's make sure that we discipline our child in the right manner, because then discipline does the work it's supposed to do. Well, I hope this is a help to you today. Now, let's remember today, be good to everyone.